And this paranoia that in North Korea, first thing my mother told me was, don't even whisper because the birds and mice could hear me. She said the most dangerous thing I had in my body was my tongue. If I said the one wrong thing, that was going to kill me and along with 3 generations of my family. And now at Columbia class, obviously, you don't get executed. But the consequences is real. If you made look or gesture or word, anything that you made somebody unsafe, not physically punching them, but emotionally unsafe, like because we need to have a safe space at Columbia, then you can actually get kicked out of the university. But not only that, because like you said at Columbia, everybody is going to investment banking, the big tech, governments, and going to the big, business consulting companies. Not that many things that can pay your tuition back after graduating. And a lot of them go to the UN as well. And then you are going to work with your colleagues eventually. And they are like alumni in the company. So you cannot be marked as this one of 6 herbs, right? If you do that, that is like almost being marked as a racist, and that your livelihood is going away. Your dignity just goes away. Your reputation gets destroyed. So everybody have to watch out. It's like North Korea. If you see something, say something. That's what American classroom says. If you see something, say something. It's like my teachers at North Korea mandatoring us to, report our classmates, criticize them openly in what they do. And this like seeding the distrust between students. That's why in North Korea, we don't have friends. We only have comrades. That's a very different thing, being comrades and friends. And in America, now they say, keep asking us, if you see something, say something. And that paranoia just comes back.
So it's the paranoia, but it's also that brainwashing that you were talking about, to where it's like, if you don't just parrot these things and say them the exact way and the exact cadence that we want, you're going to be branded as one of these things. And that was one of the most telling things and most heartbreaking things in your interview that you did with Jordan Peterson. It actually brought him to tears when you said you felt like your time at Columbia, not your time at, Butthole State, community college, but like Columbia was a waste of your time. And he was just appalled because this is an academic, this is an academician, this is a guy that has dedicated his life to education and to a college university campus, and he's just so appalled at where it is now. But the thing about what you did is you took your education and then you almost accidentally moved into advocacy, but not like what some of your classmates were doing. But it was almost like you were forced into this, Yeonmi, because you were invited to give a speech in Ireland, and this speech went viral, and it kind of sent your life on a different path than maybe what you were expecting. So take us through that event and this speech and why you think it had such an impact.
So I was invited to speak at this One Young World Conference in Ireland, Dublin. And I was, for the first time in the big stage, I shared my story and what was happening to North Korean people and the North Korean modern-day slaves in China. And I think that day, there's more than 2,000 people from all around the world were standing there and crying with me. And I think that day was, for the first time, my faith in humanity got restored. I lost my faith in humanity when I was in China. Humans were the worst things I've ever seen in my life. And then I was realizing if I let the world know what's happening, I might be able to stop this modern-day Holocaust. It's not what I'm saying. The UN said the only thing that we can find in the human history, what's happening to Northern people, the parallels are the Nazi Germany's Holocaust and Stalin's work camp. So Holocaust is repeating again, and we are silencing again. So I was thinking I can change that. I think that's for the first time I realized that I can make people to aware what's happening. So from there on, I was writing my first book. I came to New York to resume my education. And one step by step, and now here I am. I'm a conservative right-wing, Nazi.
That's right. Join the club. We're happy to have you. You're an American Nazi. Good for you. But the thing is you were being invited to speak at a lot of places. But again, growing up in North Korea, there were certain people that their names weren't recognizable. Certainly their companies weren't recognizable. And you were invited to come speak to a guy's group, and his name was Jeff Bezos. And he was, this guy who ran a company called Amazon. And you basically said, nah, I'm busy. I can't do that. But then he asked you again to come and speak at something called Campfire. And
Yeah.
by this time, you know who Jeff Bezos is. You know what Amazon is. Obviously, you'd been in America for a while and you accepted his invitation to go and speak at Campfire. Now, I was not aware of what Campfire was. Can you take us what that was and then kind of like what it was like once you got there?
Yeah, so I think like this is the thing when I came to America, I had no agenda. I had no idea what's the difference between Democrat or conservative, or liberal or the left. So like I have no idea what's even the stereotypes of genders or even race. Like in North Korea, I did not know there's a different race existed. I come here just pure blank space. And then, like you said, I was invited to go to attend this off the record gathering that Jeff Bezos holds each year. And that he usually, I heard, hold this event in New Mexico where he grew up. But then that year, that resort was going through renovation. So he was holding in Santa Barbara, California. So he would send a private jet to New York, the private airport, to bring his guests. And I think approximately, I might be wrong, around 150 people to go. So the attendees are like the billionaires and most famous Hollywood stars and writers. And one of the person that I've had to fly together was Harvey Weinstein. So I had no idea also who Harvey Weinstein was either. Like I just did not know. I got the airplane. I was waiting and somebody was running late. So we had to wait for this guy. And then he gets in and he comes shake everybody's hands and like shook my hand. Hey, I'm Harvey. And then, okay, cool. So we got to Santa Barbara and of course there's a Tom Hanks, Reese Witherspoon. I mean, what was a guy who was in Mad Men? John somebody.
Yeah, I know you're talking about. I can't think of his name.
Yeah, like literally.
John Hamm.
John Hamm. Like anybody you've been seeing on the main TV screen is like there, right? Yeah. And the people who like this billionaire like clothing companies and tech companies are there. And then it's a several days of treat where we hear stories on the like fireside chat almost like that. And then the first day, Harvey would give a speech how he comes from Flushing, Queens, come from nothing. With his grit, he became successful. Now he's helping a lot of marginalized children and giving money to Democratic Party. And then, how he was getting money from Saudis to help this cause. And at the end of his speech, like everybody stood up, giving him a standing ovation and called him the man. I mean, the legend, and he was like, everybody was admiring him. And of course, like a few months later, the Me Too goes off.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
So you're there and eventually you get to give your speech. So everybody gets to give their speeches and your speech is obviously a little bit different. And so you give your speech and it leaves people in tears. People are like leaning forward. They're like, oh, how can we help? And I think at one point you even said Jeff Bezos was in tears and just like, it's just kind of this crazy situation. But that was kind of the first experience where you were around very, very important people. You told them your story. They sounded like they gave a crap. But then when it came to actually doing something about it, they wouldn't really do that. And you went to other events and other speaking engagements, and it was all very similar. You would be with politicians or these famous people, and oh my gosh, that's so hard, that's so crazy. And then you would move to the point where it's like, okay, here's what we can do about it. And then they would disappear. And I'll actually read a quote from your new book, which kind of gets into this. Over the course of the following years, I delivered speeches at Google, Facebook, the United Nations, the U.S. Department of State, and the TED Conference describing what I knew to be happening under the Chinese Communist Party and the North Korean regime. It was the same consequence of events everywhere I went. Lots of tears, lots of embracing and handshaking, lots of solicitous sympathy to offers to help, and followed by lots of silence. Now, the reason for this that we can surmise is it almost all came back to a singular reason, and that's China. And people don't really understand the connection between the regimes of North Korea and China. Everyone understands the importance of China to the world because of the amount of stuff that we buy from them, the amount of things that they export directly to us, the things that we've offshored to them to make for us. Obviously, China has a lot of countries around the world by the balls, as it were, when it comes to the things that they're able to produce. But talk to me a little bit more about that, to where it's like you're trying to be an advocate. You're trying to make change for the people that are still stuck in North Korea, people that you know personally and love. And then you have all these people in the world that can do something about it, but then they just refuse to because they're scared of Daddy China.
Yeah, I think this is one of the chapters in the book about hypocrisy of the elites. That initially I believed these people, Hillary Clinton was all about women empowerment, standing up for girls in the world. And I was meeting Nancy Pelosi and anybody you can imagine who were the movers and shakers in the world. And they were openly has been talking about, they've been denouncing slavery in America. They've been saying that silence is violence. You need to stand up for justice. And I was thinking, okay, these people are saying all this wonderful stuff. Now I just need to tell them what is the actual injustice happening. So I would go tell them about these things. Like there are 300,000 North Korean girls in China. Their organs are harvested out of them. They are being sold like livestock. The children of these women are more than 1 million of them. They are also they are enslaved. So there are government-sponsored modern day slavery is happening in China, and North Korean regime had 25 million slave North Korean people because they are also sponsored by CCP. And we need to hold China accountable. So I've been asking him to do something. And then they said, I'm sorry what you went through, but please don't say how I know you, that you know me in public. Because they need to make money out of CCP. Their business ties with the CCP is so big. So these people, they only stand up for gay rights when they get applause, right? They only stand up for minority rights when it's good for them. When there's an actual consequence of standing for truth and justice, they don't do that. It's just a lip service to these slogans, like Black Lives Matter all day long, and slavery was wrong, the America was horrible, we need to abolish slavery, and that thing ended. But there's another slavery is continuing to happen in modern day. They do not want to denounce that. When it's only convenient, they pretend to fight for justice. And in reality, they are helping these dictators. They are helping these criminals and enrich just themselves. And completely corrupt people are in American mainstream, in Hollywood, in media, in education. And I think American public, I did not know that either. Like I somehow thought these people were virtuous because that's been all they're doing. They've been virtue signaling all their life. And I think finally I woke up to understood American ruling class are so corrupt and they're lying to American people.